There are few things that exist today that have lived through a world war, the invention of TV and a pandemic. And yet one Chapel Street, St Kilda has come to personify an enduring legacy of survival thanks to the Astor Theatre. Opening on the side of a former horse stable, the Astor first swung open its doors in April 1936, commencing its now famous double-feature tradition with Golden Age classics, Hand Across the Table and Wanderer of the Wasteland. At the time of opening, the Astor competed with 7 other cinemas in the surrounding suburbs, even opening on the same night as the Windsor, just across the road. While one can only imagine the Klieg lights flooding the St Kilda skyline on that eventful evening, attended by over 1,000 people, including the future Prime Minister Harold Holt, the Astor is now the only remaining cinema from that time period that retains its status as a single-screen cinema. Its longevity is no mean feat either, considering the cinema has faced plenty of Hollywood cliffhangers over the years, avoiding the threat of closure on multiple occasions. But now, approaching its 90th anniversary, its jazz modern architecture, lovingly projected 35 and 70mm prints of films, and iconic neon lights are a beacon for cinema lovers all across the state. Today, we're delighted to be hosting Short Circuit out of the Astor Theatre, and we'll be chatting more about its features inside. However, our episode wouldn't be complete without a guest of equal calibre. We're very lucky to be joined by animation filmmaker and writer Dennis Tupicoff, whose career has reached global recognition with his innovative approach to hybrid animation styles. We have a whimsical lineup of animation short films to chat with Dennis about, so let's head inside to the Astor now to learn more about the cinema and his filmmaking work. Hello everyone and welcome to Short Circuit, a program that broadcasts short films by Victorian filmmakers. I'm your host Patrick Scott. This episode is particularly bittersweet. Bitter not just in the sense that I had to spit out chewing tobacco seconds before filming, but also because this is the final episode of the season. For our final episode, we wanted to send the program off in style. That's exactly why we've gone to one of Australia's cultural behemoths, a cinematic institution that has remained as near and dear to the heart of its patrons today as it did when it opened almost 90 years ago. We're here at the Astor Theatre, one of the very few cinemas in the entire country to still exist from the 1930s. It has over 1,100 seats with a 2-level auditorium. The history of this theatre could be a movie in itself, and we'll be exploring a little bit about that later on. Our guest today has been as influential in the animation world as he's been prolific. We're chatting with Dennis Tupicoff. Dennis is an internationally acclaimed filmmaker. His work has featured in many international retrospectives and won numerous awards, including the grand prize at the 54th Oberhausen Short Film Festival in Germany. I'm very keen to chat with him today about animation and the wonderful lineup of short films we have in today's episode. Dennis, thank you very much for joining us today. The first question I like to ask our guests at the top of the show is, how did you begin your filmmaking career and how did you know it was something you wanted to pursue throughout your life?
Well, really, I'd only shot some Super 8 stuff, live action, sort of home movie style, really. And I happened to be in New Zealand when I was about 21 or 22. Something like that, and I happened to hear a song on an album, and it was called "Please Don't Bury Me," and I thought it's a pretty funny song by an American songwriter called John Prine. Anyway, and I thought at that moment, oh, that would make a good animated film. So I didn't know anything about filmmaking really. I didn't know anything about animation at all, and I just thought, well, I'll make this animated film. So that's what I did. And about 2 years later, I finished that film.
Yeah. Well, we're keen to learn more about your early career and different animation styles you've used. First of all, I'd like to introduce our first short film for the program. Our first short film is called Two Heads Are Better Than One, a 2024 short film directed by John Morgan. A whimsical musical short film that melds steampunk imagery with Western iconography. It's about a bounty hunter who approaches a criminal with a bounty on their head and tries to convince them to partner up, but when they refuse, the bounty hunter breaks into song to convince them. Enjoy.
Here you go, ma'am.
Oof, not bad. Hey, can I get another one over here? Oh, thanks, stranger. I owe you one.
You owe me one, do you, Alex?
Yes, sir. Wait, how do you know my name?
Why, I'm a big fan of your work. Hijacking that blimp mustn't have been easy.
You kidding? It was too easy. And I'll do it again, too.
Exactly. Listen, Half-Light. Name's Percival.
Isn't it?
I've got a proposition for you. Work for me, and I'll spare your life.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't work for birds, or any animal for that matter, so thanks for the shot. I'll see you around, okay? Okay. Bye-bye.
Not so fast. Allow me to put this into perspective for you.
You've got a bounty on your head, one wrong move and you're dead. I mean, what more's there to be said? You'll be hung in a day. I know you're quite the engineer and that you live in tons of fear. I can make that disappear, as I always say. 2 heads are better than one, gotta work together if you want your done. New clothes are better than rags, new hair and makeup with designer bags. You could be living the dream, not stuck in this old same routine. If you just come with me, I'll show you what your life can be. And in time you'll come to see that 2 heads are better than one. So, where do you think we should start? I'm thinking of flaming trebuchet.
Listen here, you copper pigeon, you're getting ahead just a smidgen. I literally just got out of prison. Please leave me alone. Sorry, pal, wish I could stay, but I prefer not to go astray. Don't want this on my resume. Good luck on your own. 2 heads ain't better than one. I work alone, don't need anyone. New clothes, thanks, but no. Would you look at the time? I gotta go. My life might be risky, but as long as I've got my whiskey, I don't need any help. So why don't you go fuck yourself? This won't be good for my health, and 2 heads ain't better than one.
Is that what you think, huh?
What? This is clearly fucking blackmail.
I genuinely don't know what you're talking
I
about.
beg your pardon?
Could you elaborate a bit more?
Okay, sure.
We taking the deal?
Fine.
Say that again. I didn't quite catch that.
Fine.
Must be something in my ear.
Fine, I said
Once more.
fine!
Very good.
Fantastic!
Okay, but we split the profit. 60-40 going my way.
Of course. What?
Hit it!
2 heads better than one. We will work together and we'll get shit done.
We will be swimming in cash.
All we gotta do is take out the trash.
We will be living the dream.
Alcohol in our bloodstream.
See how much we can gain.
Even if it's inhumane, we will never show restraint. 'Cause 2 heads
are better than none.
That was Two Heads Are Better Than One, a musical animation directed by John Morgan, contributions on song and composition by Austin McDonald, Adam Ternalia and Charlotte Lowe, and music by Tomas Barrios. That was a graduate short film from the Bachelor of Design and Interactive Media course at RMIT. It screened at the Student Showcase at the Melbourne International Animation Festival. We're chatting with Dennis about it now. So one of the striking things about that short film is it uses an original song. As you mentioned a moment ago with Please Don't Bury Me, you've animated to pre-recorded songs before, and I think you came back to it with Still Alive.
Yes, that's right.
Are there any adjustments you have to make in your animation techniques to make sure it fits the beats of the song?
Well, you do, unless you're doing a clip for a existing song. That is, a music clip for a commercial song, which actually I've never done. I've never done one of those. In that case, of course, you would have to make the film fit the music. But in both of the cases that I've used a previous song, I have adjusted the music. In the first case, in Please Don't Bury Me, for a start, I couldn't afford to buy the rights to the song, but most importantly, I wanted to tell a particular story, and I needed to stop and start the song and pace the lyrics to suit what I had in mind. And I was telling a story, my own story, about this guy who dies and wants his body cut up and passed all around, not John Prine's story, so to speak. So I got a friend of mine in Toowoomba, where I was living at the time, to sing and play guitar, and he was a terrific musician. David Lemon, his name was, and he sang the song and played guitar and did all of that to my timing. So I'd storyboarded the film, and I knew where I wanted the musical breaks to be, and I knew where I wanted the words to be. So he sort of went along with that. In the other case, that was back in 1976 with this first film. In the other one, called Still Alive, which I think is 2017, if I'm not mistaken, a long time later, like 40 years later. Some friends of mine had a band called the Slaughtermen, great Melbourne band, and they had this song called God's Not Dead. And so I decided to use that, and I asked their permission, and there was no budget, so they were willing to let me use the song. In this case, I used the pre-recorded song as it was, but I still adapted it, so it stopped and started a few times with some clever editing. So it wasn't a clip of the song, but it was using the song as it existed.
So with this particular short film, this screened, as I mentioned, in the Student Showcase at the Melbourne International Animation Festival. And there's many opportunities available for filmmakers to get their work screened today. Did those opportunities exist when you were first coming up? Were you able to find an audience easily?
Because it was hard enough for me to make the film, and then finding an audience for it was another thing again. I really had no idea. First of all, I didn't have any idea how to make a film, so I taught myself how to make a film and got tips from people here and there. Then I had no idea about film festivals or anything like that at all. I was living in Toowoomba, which is, not exactly on the festival circuit. And I don't think that film made it into any festivals, but I came to Melbourne and went to film school here finally, and Dance of Death had a very successful trip around the festivals in the early 80s. There weren't shorts on television much, although there were probably the odd short was shown on TV. We're talking now about the late 70s, I guess, when I was first making films and going to film school eventually in Melbourne here. I don't think I was very much across that. I was just trying to make films as opposed to getting them, and then getting them seen was another step again.
Yeah. I'm curious, when you were first starting out, did you have any mentors or collaborators that really inspired you to push your career further?
Well, only in the very initial stages. I was living and working in Toowoomba, which is, an hour and a half west of Brisbane or whatever, and Max Banner is a terrific cartoonist and animator who lived in Brisbane then. And I didn't have a lot of contact with Max, but he certainly helped me out with some advice and tips, and helped me towards getting the sound mixed and things like that, about which I knew absolutely nothing. And then after that I came to Melbourne, and there were various people at the film school here. Brian Robinson was the head of the film school then, and he was a terrific teacher, and especially in script writing and so on. And then there were various animators in Melbourne. Alatal, was Alex Stitt, Frank Hallard, people like that, and David Atkinson, who has been teaching in tertiary institutions in Melbourne. But anyway, quite a lot of people.
It's fascinating for me to hear like that chronological timeline of how different people have influenced the styles over the years, particularly in Melbourne, which doesn't get a lot of shout out, I don't think, in discourse. But in any case, Short Circuit is off to another ad break. Coming up on our lineup of animation short films is Little Hiccups by Victorian Ravanda. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. You're watching Short Circuit, or if you're watching this in a few years' time, I'm going to hedge my bets and say the award-winning Short Circuit. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm just going to manifest it into existence. For now, we're thrilled to be chatting with Dennis Tupicoff throughout today's episode, and we look forward to his thoughts on our second short film. It's called Little Hiccups, a 2D animated short film by Victorian Ravanda. It's a story about mischievous little monsters scampering around the corners of our life. Check it out.
Tiring? Aren't you tired of hoping the right candidate?
That was Little Hiccups, a 2023 short film directed and written by Victorian Ravanda and produced by Kate Crawley. Victorian won the Best First Time Filmmaker Award at the Asian International Film Festival. The film also won the Best Micro Short at the Adelaide Independent Film Festival and won the Best Director for an Animated Short at the Vesuvius International Film Festival. We're discussing insights into the animation techniques now with Dennis. So one of the interesting things about this short film is we had the chance to correspond with the director beforehand to learn some behind the scenes details about the short film. And one of the things that they shared with us is they planned to make this short film in full colour. Right. And then due to various production constraints, they decided to pivot into the simpler animation and found that that actually lent itself better to the comedic timing. So I'm curious, across your career, do you have an example in mind where you've had to make a sacrifice about a creative choice and you've found that that sacrifice has actually improved the film for the better?
I've the case that comes up to me is in a it's not exactly a design change, but I think it was for the better. But I didn't really have any choice in this. I was once, well, not that long ago, in the late about 4 or 5 years ago, about 2019 or so. I was in the US and I was asked by a fellow filmmaker to participate in a project called the 1 Minute Memoir, where she was asking quite a few animators from around the world whose work she liked to do a memoir or an incident from their life in 1 minute, and which is even shorter than the film we've just seen. So I had to sort of think about, well, what incident from my life could I get across in an animated form in actually 1 minute? Yeah. And that's anyway. I remembered this particular incident, a very strange experience that happened to me when I was 17 on this wheat farm in Western Queensland, which look, I won't go into, it'd take too much time, but it was quite a big event, and it certainly took longer than a minute, and it was a very, very memorable and strange sort of a vision that I had. Anyway, I was able to get this across in a minute, and exactly a minute. I didn't stretch it by even a frame. Exactly a minute. I guess that's, and I don't think it was being a sacrifice, but I sort of think that the film did what it needed to do, and if I'd made it, probably the experience probably lasted a fair bit longer than a minute. I could easily have made a 5 or 6 minute film out of this pretty strange experience. Yeah. So that's my version, I guess, of what, you know, the maker of this short film, the decision made there.
Yeah. In regards to this short film, Little Hiccups, we see those little anthropomorphised creatures that each have their own unique personalities and movements. I understand the first time you animated animals, like a 4-legged creature, was with the Darra dogs in 1993. Yeah. And can you share with us what was the process like learning how to animate animals, and how does that like differentiate with like what you'd worked with prior?
Well, because I'd never been to a fully fledged animated, animation course or whatever, I didn't try. I certainly did a 1-year course in animation at Swinburne, but I'd already made films before that. And that was more, I guess, a process of extending my knowledge of filmmaking. And because of the reality of it, because these dogs had really existed, I wanted to tell the story. On the other hand, because it was out of my memory and I saw them in a particular way, I didn't want to use the reference that one is often used, aka rotoscoping, which is where you shoot animation, shoot live action and sort of trace or copy it off into animation. So it took me. So I decided. Really, it was just a thought about it. I didn't weigh up the pros and cons. I thought, well, this should be animated by hand, by me, since they're my memories. And so I did that, and so I studied dog anatomy. I studied books on, the dog's skeleton and how it works. I looked at Muybridge's books of dog movements. I looked at classic animated films like The Lady and the Tramp and things like that, and other films, to see how animators had made 4-legged animals move.
Was it a challenge to capture both what was true to your memory growing up as well as what would be like naturalistic?
Yes, and I'm sure I didn't succeed completely. I don't think you ever succeed completely in these sorts of things. But look, I did the best I could at the time, and it certainly extended my skills as an animator. And I spent, as far as it's a long time ago, but I sort of remember that I spent several months practicing and the study of the anatomy was extremely useful or really essential. But I also did look at dogs and whatever, but I just did a lot of reference of animals, a lot of drawings where I kind of shut my eyes, so to speak, and remembered the way, for instance, a dog would scratch itself or lick itself, trot along or really run really fast or swing its ears around or whatever. These are all memories that I had in my head, and I drew directly from my memory, and then I tried to make it animate and look like a real dog. And so, yes, it all took a ridiculous amount of time, and I knew how to rotoscope, and I could have done that, but for the reasons that I mentioned, I thought, well, let's see if I can present this as a personal memory drawn. The memory was in here, and the hand did the drawing, so to speak.
We're off to another commercial break. We'll be right back on Short Circuit with Dennis Tupicoff's own iconic short film, Dance of Death. Stick around. We're back here on Short Circuit. I'm your host, Patrick Scott. It's a great privilege to introduce our next short film. It's called Dance of Death, a short film by our guest Dennis Tupicoff from 1983. A satire on television violence with an ashen, dry sense of humour. It's about little Sally Roberts, who loves gruesome violence on TV. One night when she watches her favourite show, Dance of Death, she and her family get more than they bargained for. Take a look.
A ship of state will always ride from one... Welcome to tonight's Dance of Death. And here's your host, the star of our show, the Smiling Skull, Don Day. Thank you, thank you. And hey, we'll give you a real lift tonight. And in other news tonight, we have... Yes, and later in the show, This Is Your Death. The segment I know you're all just dying to be in. But right now, thank you. Right now, I'd like to do an old favorite of mine. Hope you like it. Ray, Ron Davies, that was beautiful.
Thanks, George. I guess I'm lucky to have a role like Daisy.
Oh, Sally.
She's been good to you, Ron.
Hey, Mary,
Yes,
look at this.
George, very good to me.
Oh, pretty funny, eh? Look at this.
John, shouldn't Sally be doing something else?
Oh, yeah.
You should.
Here it is.
David Robb, Africa.
Sean, I know Sally likes watching the news, but...
It's a cruel world, Mary.
Always be aware of...
And now tomorrow's weather with the lovely
sort of standing back attitude.
Hey, Dad, who's that?
I don't know. Ask your mother. Sally, have you done your homework?
Yes, Dad.
Let's hear it for Slim and Kitty. Come on! Well, panel, your thoughts on Slim's death. Jack?
Thanks, Don. A competent death, I thought, Slim. Your impact expression was only fair, I'm afraid, but certainly great elevation. Just here.
And that gorgeous spurt of blood, Jack.
Thanks, Althea. Hey, you're looking great tonight, isn't she, audience? Okay, now, Dr. Bob, you have the last word on Slim's death.
Right, yes. Well, I'm afraid to go along with the rest of the panel.
No dying speech. No last words for us. A 7 for Slim.
A 7 for Slim. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let's hear it for Kitty. Come on. All right. Thank you. Hey, now I'd like you to meet my very special guest for tonight, Mrs. Ada Fern of Surrey Hills.
Goodness, don't know all these people.
Don't worry, Ada. May I call you Ada?
Oh, yes, Don.
Who'll it be tonight? Last week, if you remember, it was poison. So, who's the lucky person tonight?
Robert Johnson, Michelle Steiner, Joyce Morton.
And here it comes. Well, this week it's Ada.
Hi, Von Pigston.
And your name, sir?
Bill Stakes, from Brighton.
Well, Bill, you're in for a bit of a shock, I'm afraid.
I'd like to send a cheery out of me, man.
Hey, did you see that?
Let's hear it for Bill. Come on. Hey, hey.
And next in sport, weightlifting, skiing, and diving.
Sally, dinner.
Come on, Sally.
And now, the surprise part of the show. This is your death,
where we surprise someone. Hey, Ada! Not yet, Ada, dear. You old killer, you.
I'm sorry, Don.
Now, don't go away, anybody. Remember, it could be you. We're just waiting to cross. Just a moment. Yes? What's that? Yes, we're crossing now.
Sally, will you say grace?
Oh, Mom.
All right.
Oh,
What we are about to receive,
I can't
may the
believe
Lord
this.
make us truly thankful. Amen.
Watch this. Let's all have a big hand for the Roberts family. John, Mary, and Sally. Hey, isn't she cute? Hi there. This is your death. Surprise, surprise.
Wow.
Mary,
Mom, don't.
look, just relax. Oh, really, Mrs. Roberts? There's no need. We're looking after everything. Mary. May I call you Mary? Now, Ada, my dear, now.
Now the countdown started.
Mary, everybody's
John.
watching. Mr. Roberts. Hey, look, you shouldn't take it like this. Do we have their family?
Look, I'm sorry.
Now, that's what we like to see. Let's hear it for the Roberts.
Gee, thanks. I'd just like to say thank you to Mr. David for the show.
Well, Sally, time's beating us again, I'm afraid. But then, death's always a bit like that, isn't it? John, Mary, and little Sally Roberts, rest in peace. Come on!
Oh, Don, that was beautiful. Just beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. Well, if we don't meet before then, I'll see you next week on Dance of Death. And now, shall we dance, Ada?
Oh, yes, Don. And thank you so much for everything.
Good night. See you next week.
Goodbye.
Ada?
You know, Don, Ron and I used to dance to this tune.
Of course, Ada. I remember Ron. Cancer, wasn't it?
Welcome back. That was Dance of Death, a short film written and directed by Dennis Tupicoff. The voice cast includes Matthew King, Suzanne Zenz and Brenda Bedison. Music was by Peter Sullivan. Dance of Death won an AFI award for Best Short Animation in 1983, as well as the first jury prize at the Annecy International Animation Festival in the same year. We're delighted to speak with Dennis about it now. So with this particular short film, Dance of Death, it was made in 1983. What prompted you at that time to explore desensitisation to violence on TV?
Well, it was something I was aware of, I guess, but I had the idea. It was a few different things came together. One of the main ones was that I'd quite separately been commissioned to do some short spots for animated spots for a children's television program called Stax, S-T-A-X, and the spots, well, they were calling them spots, they were very, very brief. Some of them were only 4 or 5 seconds. I think the longest one was about 10 seconds. So they were very, very short, and in that time, of course, you only had time to do little humorous things. So there was sight gags, there was no budget and no intention really to use voices. So there were sight gags of one sort or another. And I realised that I started thinking about that it was a bit like television, changing channels on television, and so I guess it was a combination of me wanting to use these short gags and the television violence thing, and so therefore I sifted out all the kid-friendly material and just started thinking of gags that involved violence and death and so on. And it was also the live television variety show host, which was based pretty bluntly on Don Lane, the American variety show host who was very active in Australia back then.
And yeah, so you mentioned there the character of Don Death, inspired by the real-life figure Don Lane, but that particular character, the Smiling Skull, as it's mentioned in the short film, is also a reoccurring character throughout your work. I'm curious, what does the imagery or symbol of that skeleton type figure, why does that figure resonate with you in particular?
Well, I think it resonates with just about all humans, really. I'm just another human, but as a graphic symbol or as a graphic, because no skeleton is actually going to come to life the way we are, and yet we all have a skeleton inside us, which we're moving the whole time. So it's we have a weird relationship with the skeleton. And animation isn't the only place, of course, where skeletons have come into life. Ray Harryhausen famously animated skeletons, but in stop motion. But look, there's a long history of, because we all have a skeleton inside us, a long history of skeletons in graphic art, going back to, well, in most cultures that draw images of people. There's, everyone's seen a skeleton at some point, or a body, and there's lots of cultures, and in European Western culture, it goes way, way back to the Romans, before the Romans, and Hans Holbein did a Dance of Death, Thomas Rowlandson did an English Dance of Death, Alfred Cuban, Austrian, did a fabulous Dance of Death in the early 20th century. So yeah, it goes on and on. There's many, many great artists have drawn skeletons doing things, especially saying to somebody, your time has come. Yes, shall we go?
The Grim Reaper. Yeah. So around, as I understand it, around the 80s in Australia, the animation industry was typically catered towards children's content, and there really wasn't that adult type entertainment in animation available. When you made this particular short film, do you remember what the audience reaction was like? Like, was it received well?
I made it really on spec and with money from the once again from the Film Commission. I had a reasonable budget and I was able to make it to reasonable standards with original music and voices and all that sort of stuff. Actually, the night it won the AFI award, I was approached by a distributor of Fox Columbia, who had a big chain of theatres, and he said, let's blow it up to 35, because it was on 16 millimetre, it was a little format. Let's blow it up to 35, and we'll distribute it around Australia, which they did.
Right.
So it was seen with it was a short with a Mel Brooks film called To Be or Not to Be. I think it got a pretty good reception, but of course those were that was just about the last short that was shown. I don't think it had anything to do with being the last. I hope it didn't mean that it was the last short, but it was in fact about the last short shown with a feature in Australia, ironically.
Short Circuit is off to our last ad break. After this, we'll be chatting more with Dennis Tupicoff about his industry insights he's gleaned over his career. We'll be right back. We're back on Short Circuit. Before we proceed with our interview, I'd like to take stock of the historical landmark we're located at. We're immensely grateful to the team at the Astor for allowing us to film here. It's only one of a few cinemas across Australia that maintains its repertory screenings of classic films. It's also had stints as a Greek language cinema and has striking neon lights outside befitting the jazz modern style from the time it was built. We're here chatting with Dennis Tupicoff. So, Dennis, animation has typically been described as the illusion of life, and as we've seen in little snippets, that your work can be preoccupied with death, and oftentimes like that purgatorial space between the transition between life and death. I think Into the Dark is a good example of that one. Why do you think animation is uniquely positioned to tackle like the concept of death?
Well, that's a good question. I've often asked myself that. I think the main thing is that every animated film, despite it has been, you're right, it has been often been called the illusion of life, and animation's meant to bring things to life and all this sort of reference to life. But we all know deep down, or not that deep down, that it's always dead. It's never lived, and it's not like you and I or anybody else. It's they were once objects, maybe animated, or drawings animated, or animated CGI forms animated, or AI forms animated, whatever it is. But whatever it is, they don't have a beating pulse like we do. And so from that point of view, really, it is dead. And so therefore, of course, it's the perfect subject to, I think, for living things to make films about, or using that form. Because it is. On the other hand, we as living human beings, when we're filmed, we are sort of dead already when as soon as it's filmed, and we hang around afterwards. So I think animation's always going to be in that little area, and the more live action, which is pretty interesting these days. I think the more live action becomes AI oriented, the more like animation it becomes, and therefore the more like death it becomes in a way. So recently you published a book. I think in 2020 it was published, called Life in Death, and in that book you reflected on 10 of your different films that you've made that have explored themes of life and death. I'm curious, when you went over your body of work, what was the experience like reflecting over your career? Did you learn anything that you found surprising? Oh, I don't know, surprising. I certainly, obviously looking at your old work and thinking it should have been much better than it was, and you let this down, and that was pretty bad, and you wish that something could be better. But I guess I was surprised in a way at the amount of time that I put into organising all these different sorts of stories. They're not the same story. I haven't told the same story twice, I don't think, and I haven't used the same character even, although I guess the skeleton has come back a couple of times. But no, I don't have any particular character. So from that point of view, I guess I was sort of gratified that I had used quite a lot of different approaches, rather than, say, using a particular stock character that people seem to like and just using that again and again and again. I don't think I could. I don't think I'd like to do that. Though it'd probably be better commercially to do that. I guess that was from writing the book made me think about all those different ways of spending. Was it 40 odd years of time doing those things. But yeah, you just have to, in animation particularly, you have a whole lot of different choices to make. Not only the type of film, the length of the film, the form of the script, but you've also got the techniques of animation, which are completely, there are so many techniques of animation, it's almost unimaginable, as opposed to, well, the video film thing where you're basically filming what's in front of you. Yeah. So in a way, it's a completely different challenge.
So one final question before we wrap up our interview. Do you have any future projects coming up that you'd be able to tease the audience?
Well, I'm just finishing a film. I hope to finish in the next few weeks about a couple of mice that have a run-in with a guy in the house, and it's going to be called Control. It'll be about 5 minutes or so. So I'm about to finish that now, and other than that, I have a lot of ideas for films, but unfortunately the wherewithal to make them is very short. And it's mostly what I can, the way things are for most animators, it's what can you do on your own with very, very limited means. What can you afford to do yourself with only limited help? So that seems to be that's the problem.
Wow. It's great to hear some of your stories stretching back over your career. That's all we have time for on today's episode of Short Circuit. This is, of course, the final episode for this season. I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say we need a new host. But we're grateful to Dennis Tupicoff, who has generously shared his time and wisdom with us today. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to all of the filmmakers throughout the season that have entrusted us to represent their short films, without which we would not have a show. Finally, to the crew of Short Circuit, you've been amazing to work with. A quick shout out to Nikita, Jared, Terence, Marcus, Oliver, Ocean, Bella, Ronnie and Layla for our research, and Vanessa and Kate in editing. For now, that's all we've got time for on Short Circuit. We'll see you next time.